Richie, Bullets and Broadheads. We're going to do another quick video here about shooting from a tree stand. Remember, when you're shooting from a tree stand, you're in an elevated position. So you have to be really wary of your angles and your line of sight. You have to know your distance, yardage. That's what I say. By a rangefinder, arrange the first time you're in a tree stand, because that perception throws you off a little bit. You think you're a lot closer than what you really are. So, and also shooting from a tree stand is a totally different animal than shooting on flat ground. And I'm going to show you the biggest mistakes people make. And if you do this, it will increase your success rate and will increase your accuracy tremendously. So I'm going to show you the biggest mistake people make hunting from a tree stand in the elevated position. I'm in my tree stand, and the biggest mistake people make is when they got to shoot down, especially if the deer's under them. The biggest mistake people make is they do this. They start, let me raise the sheet, they start doing this. They're lifting up their arms, they're throwing their body all out of whack. What you have to do is when you draw back your bow, like you do in your yard or wherever you practice, and bend from the waist. You keep that angle locked. Don't keep your waist still and do all this. That can throw your shot off tremendously. So the biggest mistake people make is not bending from the waist. You do a perfect draw and you bend from the waist. That's how you do it. And that will keep your shot. See how everything's still the same anchored? People try to do this and raise their arms and do all this crazy stuff. So bend from the waist. That's the most important thing. That's the biggest mistake people make from a tree stand. Remember, when you're in a tree stand, test all your shooting lanes. Make sure everything is where you can get a good shot off. Bring a couple of practice arrows. If you never shot from a tree stand, bring some arrows with you when you're up in your tree stand and shoot a couple, so you can tell where you're hitting, where your accuracy is. That's very important. Shooting from a tree stand and practicing it. Let's face it, guys. A lot of us don't have that opportunity to shoot from a tree stand and practice. If you do, more power to you. That's great. But a lot of us don't. So when you get up in your tree stand for the first time, range it out, mark where shooting lanes will be, and shoot a couple of practice arrows. Bring 5 arrows with you. So I like 5-arrow quivers, and practice 2 shots. Boom, boom. Remember, the biggest mistake people make is doing this stuff. Perfect alignment and bend from the waist. That's the key from shooting from a tree stand. And also, when you hook up your safety harness, make sure you have enough room here to move in your stand. You don't want it too low, but you don't want it too high, where if you move, you're pulling. You're constantly pulling. So that's another important thing with shooting from a tree stand. You know, make sure you have a nice bow hanger. Hang your bow over here. A lot of guys hang their bow on their stands. And practice. Go over routines in your head and physically practice. If a deer comes this way, picking up your bow, being ready. You know, if you're not going to have your bow in your hand the whole time, slowly how to pick up your bow. Shooting lanes, I speak about that all the time. Where you think the deer will come from, and if he doesn't come from there, what other type of shots do you have? So, shooting from a tree stand, the biggest mistake people make is not bending. They're always trying to contort their body. Sometimes, you know, you got to shoot from a funky angle. That's true. If a deer comes from a spot you're not used to. But always bend at the waist. And keep your technique the same you would do on flat ground. The only thing you're doing is bending at the waist. So Richie and Bullets and Broadheads, quick little shooting video. Don't make that mistake. That's the cardinal sin, shooting from a tree stand, is trying to raise your arm and do all this stuff. Just technique, lock in and bend at the waist. You want that perfect 45-degree angle when you're shooting, and that's it. Richie, Bullets and Broadheads, quick little shooting vid. I didn't shoot arrows, but that's the way to do it, guys. Don't be afraid to bring extra arrows with you and shoot from your tree stand when you first get up there. It's where you can judge where you're hitting, how you're hitting, how accurate you are. Very important. Okay, guys, Richie, Bullet Your Butt Heads out.